you know so many things, but not what your daughter is thinking. Do you really want to? Let's talk about it with Jay and Rae Anne Payleitner on Steve Brown, etc.
He's an old white guy, an author, broadcaster, and seminary professor who's sick of religion. And he's brought friends. Please welcome Steve Brown, etc.
Hey, we're so glad you're here. It's a high and holy compliment that you would take an hour and spend that with us. And I say it over and over again and mean it over and over again. You always have a place at our table. And in case you're wondering, I'm Steve, the aforementioned old white guy. Matthew Porter, our executive producer, is here. Matthew, you recently had a breakthrough with your kids, right?
I did. They had a problem, and they came to me with the problem instead of just what they always do, going straight to my wife.
She wasn't home?
No. She wasn't.
Our producer, Jinx, is in the little glass booth. Jinx, you recently learned Father's Day was created after Mother's Day.
Yeah, but it wasn't that long after. It's only 52 years later.
Yeah.
Yikes.
No respect.
And our video director and one-man IT department, John Myers, is in his tech bunker. And he has no daughters. That's because God likes me better than he likes John. Our video and one-man... No, I already said that. George Brigham is here. He's the president of
video
Life. And happy Father's Day to both of you. And Kathy Wyatt is, of course, the soft, feminine side of the program. She says the first French fries weren't cooked in France. They were cooked in Greece. I didn't listen. I don't like these.
Slipped right out of your hand, didn't it?
Yeah.
Must have been the grease.
I just read these things and sometimes blush when I do. We got a great program today. It really is. Jay Payleitner has been a top freelance producer for Christian radio, worked with Chuck Colson, Josh McDowell Radio, fathers.com, but more important than all of the others, he has worked for us. Mm-hmm. In fact, Jay, you produced the first film, public relations film, that we did for PR. Mm-hmm. And I think Columbus watched that right after he came over to America. He is currently a national speaker and author of more than 25 books, who knew, which altogether have sold 500,000 copies. Jay, when we first met you, who would have ever dreamed that where things would have gone with us and with you? And then one of the really good things about Jay is his daughter, Rae Anne Payleitner. She attended West Point, spent 4 years in Dublin before returning to the suburbs of Chicago. She works as a strategist for a tech company. Oh, yeah. And I've said this, but Rae Anne is Jay's daughter. Together, they have written a new book, which I hold in my nicotine-stained fingers. No, Jay, I have not stopped smoking my pipe, and I will be buried in it, with it.
Well, if you get cremated, you could almost be in it.
Yeah,
Listen,
right.
let me say that.
Hey, Steve, if you stop smoking, you'd probably become a soprano or something.
That's true. That's where my voice comes in.
Can't
That's
run that
right.
risk.
At any rate, what I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted was the name of this book is GirlDad, a father-daughter duo discuss truths that impact a girl's heart, mind, and spirit. First, Jay, if I write a book, and I said this off the air on my daughter's and I have no boys in my family. I have 2 daughters and 3 granddaughters. And should I write a book about any of them, I'm certainly not going to send it to them for a critique. What in the world were you thinking? Now you got to deal with all the guilt and all the uncertainty and all of the things. If I'd only done this or that or the daughters can be devastating when they tell you the truth. And Rae Anne, you did that, didn't you?
I did. That was kind of the whole concept of the book, and even how we got here, even how the book started to be created. The whole kind of path that took us here. As you said, my dad has written. I think we're north of 30 even now, Dad. Right? And we always had this give and take. His best-selling book is 52 Things Kids Need from a Dad, and I even remember him coming out to our kitchen table and saying, "Hey, I'm on number 38. Can you guys help me a little bit? Can you help me brainstorm? So he wrote these books just about 15 paces from our kitchen table. So him asking for our insight, me and my brothers, and certainly my mom, some insight into his book wasn't anything new, but certainly letting me share his pages was very new. And he can tell you more about that whole process.
Well, here's the point. Here's the point. There is that if something's out there in the printed world, and one of my kids, adult kids, come back and say, "Dad, you can't write that about me," that's going to cause a little division. Mm-hmm. So I decided early on that anytime that their name's in a book, I need to send them an early manuscript and say, "Search for your name, guys. Do a word search, because if it shows up out there in the real world, please don't come back and bite my head off." That's something we got to do as dads. We got to be aware of our kids and what they're going through, of course, that kind of thing. Make sense?
Oh yeah, I don't like it, but it makes sense. What's a girl dad?
What's a girl dad? Well, the working title for the book this was Fathers versus Daughters. And the publisher ended up changing it to GirlDad, which I think makes sense. But let me go back even earlier. Because I've done so many books, I've gained the trust of publishers, and they came to me. One of them came to me and said, "Hey Jay, could you write a nice book for nice dads about how to make nice connections with your daughter?" And I said, "You're going to pay me for that?" I said, "Sure." So I started working on it. And then I sent it, as we've already established, to Rae Anne, who was going to law school in Dublin, Ireland at the time. And because of the time difference, I sent her this manuscript, and she didn't just make red marks on it and make corrections. It was kind of a fact check I was hoping for. She wrote long paragraphs on. I wrote these brilliant chapters on your daughter and her friends, which is, a point of contention. Maybe a dad can help out with that. Your daughter and her boyfriends, your daughter and her mom, your daughter and this broken world, your daughter and her self-image. And I thought they were brilliant. And Rae Anne wrote these long paragraphs on how I was wrong, if you can imagine. Anyways, but they were brilliant. And so I asked my publisher, and it turns out that the chapters are not back and forth. I wrote my 4,000 word chapters, and she wrote about 1,500 words on after each one on reality checks and Q&A things. All that to say, that's what makes the book special. It's both sides, and I agreed that I wouldn't change anything she wrote, and she agreed that she wouldn't change anything I wrote.
That's so good. This book could be a model for a lot of things, of course, but certainly a model for discussions between fathers and daughters. Sit down and read this book and then say, let's talk about each chapter and add our voices to it. You might be surprised what happens with that sort of thing. Do you favor your daughter over your sons?
Cut to Rae Anne.
Is Rae Anne listening?
And also, have you quit beating your wife? No,
Well,
good.
the thought would be that I had 5 kids, and in so many ways they are so similar, but in so many ways they are different as well. So I'm going to say that whoever I'm hanging out with, that's my favorite at the time. How's that for diplomacy?
I like it.
I am quite impressed with that. You know, raising kids is not an easy task, is it?
What is it? The great scripture verse: "Children are a burden from the Lord." No, children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from Him. And I think that's the way we need to approach it. It's like, accept the gift, guys. Some men, can you believe it, Steve and company? Some men don't even accept that gift. They've got these small creatures running around their house, but they don't see them as a gift. That'd be job one, I think, is children are a gift from the Lord. They are a reward from Psalm 127, I think it is. Children born to a young man they're like quivers, like arrows in the quiver. I think that's the gift that we need to accept and sharpen them. We need to sharpen those kids. Each one is different, and find a different target for each one.
I think quivering was the right word.
Is to let them fly.
All right. You don't want to miss, if you're a father, a word of this. You don't want to miss a word of it if you're a daughter. You sons and mothers can hang around too. You might learn something. Hey, like Jesus, we're gonna return. So glad you're here. We're talking with Jay and Rae Anne Payleitner. Their new book is called GirlDad. A father-daughter duo discuss truths that impact a girl's heart, mind, and spirit.
So I love this topic. I have 4 babies, 2 boys, 2 girls. So I'm reading this through a very practical kind of lens. And specifically, you know, our 2 girls are 10 years old and about to be 13 years old. 10-year-old is doting and affectionate and wants to hang out and go jump on the trampoline and swim the pool. Our about to be teenager, it's more entered into a phase of being cordial. It's a different vibe. So I need to know the shortcut, the hack, the trick to trick her. And I'm not directing this to Rae Anne because she's going to offer wisdom or biblical truth about appreciation. I don't want that. You're thinking about my daughter. I want you to consider my wants and how do I get what I want.
And we all know it's about you.
Thank you. Yes. So different seasons.
What you want is to be able to hang out with her in 10 years, in 20 years. That's what you really
That
want.
is what I want.
So if there's a moment in time too now, you need to come expecting her defiance a little bit because you want her to own her career choice. You want her to own her faith. You want her to come to her own decisions. You want her to make mistakes and kind of be a jerk and kind of do things in the presence of your own home so that you can be with her. Now, here's the key to that. And Rae Anne's got a lot more to say about this than I do. At the end of every conversation, be pulling her towards you. Sometimes you want to push her away. It's like, okay, if you're not going to hang out with me, then the heck with you. You can go hang out with somebody else. But you want her to be pulling towards you. So even if she's slamming doors, you want to go up and knock on a door, and she won't respond. Say, sweetheart, oh man, it just breaks my heart when we get like this. But you know, I love you. I'd do anything for you. You are the love of my life, and I so appreciate you. And we'll get past this. So I just want you to know I love you, and we're good. We're good no matter what. boom, and she'll hear you, and she'll be glad about that. She's not going to come out and say, "Oh, Daddy, I love you." Well,
Nice.
she might, I suppose.
All right,
There you
Rae
go.
Anne, does that check out? Is that?
Yeah, that mostly checks out. That mostly checks out. I know that from a very practical standpoint, as she goes through this next period of life, you are also going through your next period of life here, which is having this person in your house. And so I really do think that you kind of embracing that you're going to evolve a little bit with her as she evolves. And that this whole season of life isn't something to fight through, right? It's not something that you have to fight against, rather. In that same concept that my dad said, to pull her towards you, allow this season to happen. It's important and it's vital. And I think the most important thing is that she knows that you're there, both obviously physically there, that you're around, but more importantly, that you're emotionally and vulnerably there. Because if she knows, as she's going, I can tell you, and we all went through this period in our early teenage life, men and women alike, that we're going through this self-discovery phase, and we don't really know who we are, and that's part of life. That it's a good thing, and we're also, physically going through lots of changes, and we're just trying to find kind of where we belong in the world and where we belong in ourselves and where we belong in our families. And I think the real key is to show her that she can be vulnerable with you when she chooses to be vulnerable with you, and you'll be there to respond to that. And be smart about things, because you're going to be the first guy in her life to kind of show her what she should expect from men. So what do you want her to expect from men, in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you want her to expect respect and kindness and vulnerability and love? Then those are the kinds of things that you want to kind of show her over and over again in this period of time, because she's forging all those relationships in her mind right now.
Man,
Good
so
stuff.
wise.
Is it okay if I jump in here with a movie reference? Forrest Gump. He runs and runs and runs that whole movie. That's what it's about. But his last words in the film, the Tom Hanks character, Forrest Gump, he sits on a stump as his son goes off in the school bus, and he says to him, this is the last words that he says, "I'll be right here when you get back." That allows Forrest his son is going out into the world. That's what your daughter needs to hear from you. Sweetheart, I'll be right here when you get back. Whether it's going off to kindergarten or to prom or to the military, you're the foundation that's launching her. So you need to be this rock, this of consistency, and that she can trust. So that's as Rae Anne goes off and does great things, I'm going to take some of the credit, because I was that found. There you go. I'll stop there.
Jay and Rae Anne, I mean, very insightful book, and really appreciate that. And just scanning through some of the chapter titles, your daughter's with her teammates or friends, with her mom. Do you have? I didn't see one that talked about your daughter's siblings. Are there any special insights there? Any challenging sort of situations?
And did you leave it out on purpose? I mean, are there some dark places here you'd rather not talk about?
And that may be, also insight from Rae Anne in terms of, well, how was it? I mean, you were the only girl, sounds like, so there's some uniqueness there. But in terms of your dad dealing with you or not dealing with you while he was dealing with somebody else, one of your siblings, and the interplay between the siblings.
I would say largely that the best gift you can give to your daughter is siblings, because if all goes to plan, they're the ones that are going to be with her whole life. And if you can cultivate a space of love and respect in your home, the more that you can put into that home, the better. I mean, yeah, I was the youngest of 5. I had 4 older brothers.
Oh, wow.
Bit chaotic, obviously.
You poor dear.
But what I found is that, my dad still found the time to spend time with us individually. But also we got to forge those relationships with each other. So even when they're fighting, when they're little, you're giving them a great gift. I think as long as you cultivate that space of respect, you're giving them a great gift for the rest of their life. Because I know my brothers are some of my best friends.
And only fighting when you're little, right?
Right. Oh man, that's got to be intimidating for any guy that wants to date you. I'm not dating anybody. Got 4 older brothers. Jeez. And a father. I mean, that's kind of scary. Hey, we're talking with Jay and Rae Anne Payleitner. GirlDad, a father-daughter duo, discuss truths that impact a girl's heart, mind, and spirit. This is the kind of book that'll open up family discussion. There's not a lot of sex in it and stuff, but there's a lot of wisdom, and the kind of wisdom that you need as a mom and dad. So don't go anywhere. Jay and Rae Anne Payleitner. You can find out more from Jay at jpayleitner.com, and you can follow him on Twitter and say nasty things if you would like. At J Payleitner. That's Payleitner. Rae Anne, you got any socials you want to put public so people can talk, or you just rather
you can just send them right to my
yeah.
Smart lady.
And leave me alone. You know, we were talking off the air, and I was talking about how when we do programs like this, I always feel guilty because I really screwed some things up. But sometimes I feel like maybe I did it right, or at least my wife did, and I went along with her. But we decided early on, and there were reasons for that, because I was a pastor, and, you know, PKs are not in a wonderful place. They're on show. They're constantly required to do things that others are not required to do. So we decided that every year we were going to sit down and discuss the rules we would eliminate that year. And by the time they were seniors in high school, there were no rules. They could go where they wanted to go. We didn't have curfews. They could spend their allowance as they wanted to spend it. They could hang out with whoever they wanted to hang out with. And we were criticized a lot. I am always, but I was criticized a lot for that particular action. But we didn't change. We stayed with it. And the proof is in the pudding. We have two wonderful daughters who are walking with Christ, who discussed, they could read or see anything as long as they discussed it with us. And it turned out to be, in fact, I am so wise, I can hardly stand myself.
Oh, Lord.
You guys, Rae Anne or Jay, you want to talk about it? Probably Rae Anne, you want to comment on that?
Well, I think it obviously, like you said, the proof is in the pudding, right? Like it's some things that will work effectively for your kids in your household might not work for everybody.
Yeah,
but
good point.
I am a firm believer that your daughter should be given trust until she breaks that trust. And I think it's a huge thing for parents and dads who are on the more disciplinary side to kind of make them earn trust, if that makes sense, as opposed to letting, I just don't think you should be the teenager along with the teenager, right? As the dad, you shouldn't drop to that teenage level. If she breaks your trust, or if there's something that's going to cause her, actual harm in the imminent future here. Those are two different things. But I would say if she does break your trust, you can sit her down, explain why she broke your trust and how this is going to affect you moving forward. But until she does that, you want to keep those lines of communication open, and you want to make sure, like you said, they came and discussed things with you. That's obviously the most important thing.
Well, that was part of the deal. Yeah.
No, of course. And that's an excellent part of the deal. But when you do that, then all of a sudden they're used to talking to you about things, and hard things, or things that might seem in the gray of life. And then all of a sudden, when they're 18, 19, 25, even 35, when they come across something hard, when they come across something in that gray space, they want to turn to you because they're used to that. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Jay?
Well, yeah, you want your kids to come to you. I'm thinking of a friend of mine, his 11-year-old daughter. It was a nice spring day, and he had poured into her for years about sexual purity and modesty and humility and such. But she came bouncing down the stairs on the first nice day to get on the school bus. He had never talked to her about the length of blue jean shorts. And he looked at her and said, "You can't get on the bus. Your shorts are too short." And what did that little girl do? She got on the bus because she hadn't done anything wrong. Now, that dad had thought that he had failed his daughter, had failed God, had failed the boys at school who would be lusting after his daughter for the whole day. They didn't talk that night. They didn't talk for a couple days, and then it was past the salt and getting back to life got back. And he happened to be in her room one day, a week later, and he looked on her mirror, and she had put a little handwritten yellow sticky that said, "Does what you see honor God?" That little girl had made the decision on her own to honor God. Because of the dad had earned the right to speak into her life, and you know what? She never wore those shorts again. That was a decision she made, because little girls and young adult girls and all kids have to make their own decisions, but dad has to pour into it and earn so that they earn the right. It's a fascinating to realize that.
And by the way, before you send letters, I wasn't suggesting you remove all rules. That was discussed every year. And it was when they were seniors in high school that the rules, man, when they were in the 10th grade, we beat them. just wanted you to know that. And I don't want you to write me letters like saying
That's just a different letter.
Guys, I know that you wish we'd just go away, but we're not. We're going to return. And it is our fond hope that you do too. So glad you're here. We're hanging out with Jay and Rae Anne Payleitner. As I said, you can find out more from Jay at jpayleitner.com or on Twitter at jpayleitner. And Rae Anne would prefer you just leave her alone.
Jay and Rae Anne, I just wanted to make a comment and ask a question sort of as a follow-up on that. Everybody knows who Dr. Phil is, and for years and years and years, as he's been on TV, he has stressed the point that the most important person in a kid's life is the same-sex parent. So obviously, for a girl, it's mom, and for a dad, it's dad. And obviously, a lot of kids are growing up without that benefit. You know, girls who are growing up without a mom, boys who are growing up without a dad, etc. But when you crisscross that, girls that are growing up without a dad, boys that are growing up without a mom, how do you take all of this? I mean, GirlDad. What does that do? And where do you go when you don't have that, regardless of who you are, whether you're a girl or a boy?
Well, I think Dr. Phil might be wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
because it takes a mom and a dad. The best
Sure.
case scenario is clearly a mom and a dad playing their roles. Now, certainly, I get the idea of the role modeling. A mom's going to role model, and a dad's going to role model to his son. But kind of to answer your question, I think it's all about you got to think about you're going to enter her world. Dad, you gotta. And that's easy when they're 3 or 4, that do a teddy bear picnic or the tea party in the backyard, or when she gets older, make Lego starships and bake mud pies and do the hopscotch and the doodling on the driveway in chalk. And as she gets older, and figure out what makes her tick, and introduce her to things, and dance with her in the kitchen, and make up show tunes and coach her teams, kind of thing. Whatever she's into, enter her world. But actually, when I do speaking to, especially to dads groups, I'll put up on the screen, quit golf. And the whole idea is, for a season of life, you need to stop your hobbies, because make your kids your hobbies. So that idea that you're gonna that you're gonna enter her world, but also maybe have her enter your world. So even better than quitting golf, and this is a metaphor for all kinds of things, even better than quitting golf is to invite her, even when she's 12 years old, to play 9 holes with you, so that she enters your world and sees what's going on with you, so she can envision her own future in her career or her life, that kind of thing.
Rae Anne, did he do that, or is he lying?
Oh, I can certainly say that he entered our world for sure. And I think, you know what, he was sneaky about how he had us enter his world. And it turns out that a lot of my hobbies ended up being his hobbies, inadvertently or advertently, depending on how you look at it. And I think just small things, like he said, when they're little, kids just want to follow dad around, just watch him do everything he does. And the more nuggets you can give them in that period of time, those will come back around. People are always shocked when I love musicals, and I go, well, my dad's an old theater major, and so I
don't tell him that.
Oh, you've been outed.
I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater. What a worthless sheet of paper that is. I have good memories from it, but I have matured so much since then, 40 years ago. Thank you very much, Rae Anne.
You're welcome. Always trying to help. Always trying to help. Always trying to help.
George?
There you go.
Well, you have talked about, it seems that the book is sort of targeted, if I were to say your precise target for the book, almost like Matthew's kids' age, or maybe a little younger, that this is where you want to go, dads, those kind of things. What can you say to the dad that thinks, oh my gosh, I overreacted in the wrong way all these years, my daughter's grown up, she's out of the house, I missed opportunities, there's some things I really screwed up, and maybe you've got some kind of connection, maybe you don't. What kind of guidance or insights do you have for that situation?
Rae Anne, I'm going to let you answer this by saying I learned the great art of apologizing.
Yeah.
And I think that was a great gift that God gave me along the way. I am the first one to say, man, I messed up, so sorry. And that goes a long way when they're 7 and 8, and also when they're in their 20s. Man, you know what? I missed some opportunities, or I messed up there. I remember saying something to you that I think, that kind of thing. Rae Anne, I think I did that. Am I right?
Oh, I think it's one of the best things you did. That I talk about that all the time, that I think that the apology, I didn't realize how rare that was, right? When I'm 8 years old, I didn't realize how rare it was for a dad to apologize to their kid, because my dad did it to me. And what that taught me is that even at 8, I had the self-dignity, like I had the right to an apology if someone hurt me. And that has treated me very well throughout the years. And but certainly I know my friends didn't have that, right? Their dad wouldn't say anything, even when they messed up egregiously. But I think also in addition to that, apologizing is huge. But I think in addition to that, when you have those dads when their daughters are out of the house or feel like they're out of the house, right, in those last few teenage years, I just want to really tell you, Dad, unless obviously the exceptions of like significant abuse or things like that, things where you just kind of missed your shot. Daughters have a lot of forgiveness for their dads in their heart. It might take a lot of apologies to kind of creep in there and find it. It might take you saying, stepping into their world as an adult now and saying, how can I be a part of your life? But there's a lot of room for forgiveness. So my encouragement for those dads would be to press forward, to stick it out. And even if she shuts the door in your face, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, you have to reprove to her that you're there. You have to reprove to her that you want to be a part of her life. And that forgiveness is there. So stick it out and be strong for your daughter, because she still needs you. When she's 25, when she's 35, when she's 45, she still needs you. So stick it out.
That is so wise.
And it's about listening too. We know that. That's the cliche, but you need to listen.
Yeah. Do you take credit for your wise daughter? I would. I'd say so.
I give so much credit to
nurture over nature.
That might be the last thought. My wife has been a huge help in knowing what's important to Rae Anne.
Listen, I'm glad you said that, because you got to go home tonight. This has been a fun hour. You guys, you did a good thing, and this is a good book. GirlDad, a father-daughter duo discuss truths that impact a girl's heart, mind, and spirit. This book won't only impact daughters and fathers, it'll impact sons and everybody else, because this is important and wise material. Guys, thanks for being with us. I hope we can do this again. Bless you. And you who are listening, don't go anywhere or you'll get the fever and die. Good hour talking with the Payleitners and their wisdom. Kathy asked a question and never got an answer during the interview. I mean, they had written a book about a father and a daughter, and that's what this interview was about. But your question was profound. What do you do if you don't have a dad? Or what do you do if you don't have a mother? I one time asked a friend of mine, how do you know what to do with your daughters or your sons? And they said, think of how your Father in heaven has fathered you. And so if you've been listening to this and you're in that kind of situation where you don't have a mom or a dad and you feel like an orphan sometimes, or you had a really bad and unwise, even abusive relationship with your mom or your dad, these kinds of programs cause you to wince. And I get that. I wince when I think about you. That's a hard place to be. And the key is to find another father, who is kind and wise and compassionate, who cuts you slack all the time and looks out for you and wants the best for you, and in fact acts in ways that are best for you. And that would be your Father in heaven. And I don't know any other place to go except there. There are substitutes among friends, of course. God sends people into our lives that make a big difference. But make sure that you get to know the Father. Jesus said, when you pray, pray, our Father who art in heaven. And remember that he's a good father, and he's not like the one you might have experienced. All right. I'm thinking of 10 other things I want to say, and I have just a few seconds, so I won't even try. Would you tell me who's going to be on next week?
Yeah, you should say Happy Father's Day, though, because it's Father's Day weekend.
Happy Father's Day.
Next week, our new friend, Mike McKinley, is going to be with us. And his book is titled Friendship with God. And so...
Not altogether unrelated to what I just said.
Exactly.
Well played.
How fortuitous.
Well, I find it that way.
Well, of course you did. Absolutely you did.
You should see the planning that goes into these programs.
I believe it was predestined.
There you go.
Guys, we're
that's
going to
the
come
plan.
back next week, same time, same place, and it's our fond hope that you join us. Between now and then, don't do anything we wouldn't, and that gives you a wide berth.
So good.
Gotta figure out a way to
Saying that for 60 years, and I